All right, hello, welcome to an episode of the I Am Guyanese series. My name is Vanya, and I'm here with Paul Cort, or as I call him, Uncle Paul, one of the most talented musicians in the Caribbean, as far as I'm concerned, in the world. But he is Guyanese by birth and by everything. So before I go too far in, Uncle Paul, hello.
Hi, Vanya, my lovely niece.
And how are you today?
Well, I am, as I always am, thankful, just grateful, because I believe that for all the great things in life and the blessings that I've received that outnumber and far exceed any of my wildest expectations, I could be nothing but grateful
Yeah.
because the forces of the universe could have chosen otherwise. So I just happen to be very fortunate.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I'm definitely grateful that I was able to meet you and you play a huge role in my life. From a very young age, all the times. I don't want to get into it, but um so you are Guyanese. Where in Guyana did you grow up?
Well, I grew up, the first 5 years of my life were spent on Middleton Street, Newtown Kitty,
Okay.
at my grandmother's home, because it was quite a large house
Okay.
and had several apartments, and my parents rented an apartment from my grandmother. As a matter of fact, the spot is still identifiable in that Mays Schools has one of its buildings on that lot right now. So,
Oh,
yeah, right on Lamaha Street there in Newtown. That's where
yeah.
I grew up the first 5 years of my life, where I went to Mary Kids Nursery School on Dennis Street. The
Wow.
school no longer
I was gonna
exists.
say I
That's how
haven't heard
old I
that
am.
name.
Right. That's how old I am. And then moved to Garden Street Kitty, or
Okay.
I'd say David Street Kitty, because we lived on the Castello property because my great grandmother was a Castello by blood. The Castellos of Tutorial High School notoriety,
Oh,
um, and they owned 8 house lots between David Street and Garden Street Kitty.
so your
And
family moved big. It's like all the Joy Shun property at that. Wow.
yeah, well, they had been in education for over a century.
Mm,
And so, like that, I believe that they had ways and means, which is how they could have owned all that property. And so we lived the third lot in from David Street. So it was closer to Garden Street, sort of in the middle.
okay. Okay.
So that the address says Garden Street Kitty, but we'd always walk through David Street Kitty because that's where the minibus passes. You get the bus there. So depending on who it is and whether or not people wanted to find me, I'd always say, well, David Street, because that's where you'd stop off and walk in.
Okay.
So yeah, I grew up in David Street. Moved in my second year of nursery school to Wendy's Nursery School, which was on Lamaha Street. It was
Mm,
downstairs of St. Thomas More's men's hostel,
okay.
which has now become a retirement or nursing home that the Catholic Church still controls.
Okay.
Uh, but now it's not just a men's home; it's a hostel for
Oh, for everybody.
old people. Yeah, and that's where Wendy's nursery school used to be. That also no longer exists. And then,
Remains.
it was next door uh, to Payne's nursery school at a time when private citizens used to have their own schoolhouse. Miss Payne
Wow.
had a nursery school next door as well, and she was a veteran educator.
Mm.
Um, and then I went to F.E. Pollard Primary School
I see. I know that name.
on David Street. That used to be St. James the Less um,
Oh,
Primary School, right? It used to belong to the Anglican Church,
Okay.
and yeah, and then off to Brickdam Secondary School. So that's where I grew up
Okay.
largely.
So it's a tongue boy.
Yeah,
The full.
but I had country mentality though because both of my grandparents were from outside of the city. My grandfather was from Rose Hall, Quarantine. Well, actually, he was from Suriname.
Oh.
Right? He was from Suriname, born and grew there, um, based on an infatuation that his father, who was from Rose Hall, had with a Dutch woman in Suriname.
Oh wow.
Went had a rendezvous over there. My grandfather was born, and he was his mother's only child,
Oh wow.
and she died um, when he was a young child,
Mm.
and that is how we ended up coming over to
So
Guyana.
British guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because his mother's brother,
Hmm.
brought him over when his sister died,
Okay.
where he started to live in Skeldon. And then his father got wind that his child is in Guyana and decided to go fight for his child and took him
Oh my
and he
God.
went to Rose Hall, quarantine. So that side of the family is very country, right?
So did
Uh,
you spend time parts of your childhood in quarantine?
As a teenager, I ended up
Okay.
visiting, yes, for a few times. I'd like to say that the family that my grandfather grew up with is well known to Guyanese, except that they might not even make the connection. Everybody knows the spicy dish restaurant on David Street that is
Yes.
now Tasty Dish. It
Yeah.
was their father who was my grandfather's
Oh.
uncle. Yeah,
Okay.
so those are my grandfather's first cousins.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Wow.
right, so he grew up with their father until his father went and wrested him from his loving uncle,
Wow.
and that's how he ended up in Rose Hall. And then my grandmother,
Hmm.
who my grandfather met when he moved to Demerara,
Hmm.
he met her at Port Royal. So my grandmother was also country girl because she is
Wow.
from Port Royal, Middle Street, Port Royal. And so, even though we grew up in Georgetown, we had some very strong country values.
Goodness. So I know one of the things they talk compare country people to tongue people with, especially women, is food. You smile brightly as you're married to my lovely auntie, who is a
Who is a
country
very
girl,
good preparer of food.
amazing cook. Years ago when I first met her, so I know now it's
Oh yeah,
even
yeah.
better.
Oh yeah, and I mean my grandmother
Hmm.
was an excellent cook. As a matter of fact, she was excellent in the sense that the cuisine
Hmm.
was varied because of her Barbadian heritage. You know,
Oh,
my grandmother was a hunt. Her um, her aunt was a lady named Victoria Hunt, and they used to call her Aunt Tanta, right?
mm-hmm.
And Aunt Tanta, a cousin of mine who is still alive, he's my father's age, told us that she was called Aunt Tanta because she was a real Virago, right? She was the Tantaria, as we would say in Guyana.
Yeah.
Aunt Tanta wasn't easy at all, and they
Wow.
come from Barbadian stock.
Okay.
So it was in my grandmother's house that I ate cuckoo. My grandmother used to make cuckoo
Oh wow.
right?
I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I
Sorry,
mean,
I'm not.
and
I'm
I was the
not
one who
a
used to pound the fufu for my grandmother, right? So I know about pounding fufu in a mortar. I mean, young Guyanese people don't know about that, but I used to pound
I
the
knew,
fufu,
well, yeah, we had the
right?
marching pesto because Granny had the big one.
Mm-hmm.
The,
I had the big
not
one,
the
and I used
cute
to
one that
pound
is
it.
by in Mexico, the big wooden.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
that's what I had,
yeah.
right? And so I know about pounding fufu, and then of course my grandmother was with all the Guyanese variations of food,
Hmm.
right? And my grandmother, like typical of old people, had a pretty sweet hand, and I grew up with her in the house. So yes, food was a thing.
So if you
Right?
had to choose one dish, it can't be, obviously it can't be cuckoo. But if you had to choose one dish that represents Guyana, what dish would that be?
Well, that is a wild card. And the reason I say that is Guyana's varied cuisine from the various ethnicities, and all of them have a unique taste
Yeah.
that it has its own integrity. But I would say if I had to choose, I'd probably say cook up rice. And the reason why I'd say cook up rice is if you have a real cook up,
Yeah.
I want to say a real cook up, the cook up that has everything in it.
You gotta name it. Okay, which peas?
Well, personally,
Hmm.
I have a hard time choosing, but I like black eye, right?
Really?
Oh, yeah, but the point is, that's what I'm saying. I have a hard time
That,
choosing.
yes,
I like black eye
because
because
yeah,
that's what my mother used to do a lot of.
yeah.
But when my grandmother did it, it was pigeon peas, and I loved pigeon peas.
Hmm.
So to choose, and then of course there's the infamous Old Year's Night cook up with the red peas, So
Yeah, yeah,
it's hard
yeah.
to say, but cook up of any sort for me is good. Because I mean, I got a cousin who used to cook a wicked split peas cook up, and I mean, it
That's
was so
my favorite, I think.
rich
Yeah.
that when you ate the split peas cook up, you should
All
be
you could
thinking,
do is sleep. This all after you just got sleep.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's that. And then when I say a real cook up, I mean the cook up that has,
Meat.
yeah,
Which one?
oh yes, right, has the tripe and the beef
And the
and
salt beef.
and the salt beef. You
Hmm.
got that, and then you would have cook up that has vegetables in it,
Some
right?
okra.
Right, you got the okra in it, a piece of pumpkins,
Hmm.
so it is the most nutritious for me, the most satisfying.
Yeah.
And I eat cook up with great pleasure because of its historic significance.
Yeah.
Yes, it is true that many Caribbean islands have various mutations of cook up. They call it
Mhm.
pilau in Trinidad, in Antigua. They call it seasoned rice.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was
Jamaicans
living in
obviously call it rice and peas,
yeah,
but
right. Some people call it rice and peas. I think that many people might not be aware of the historic significance
mhm,
that when Africans were brought to the Caribbean and enslaved
mhm.
uh, by Europeans,
Yeah.
they were given a single pot per household.
Yeah.
And so African people had the ingenuity to develop a way of cooking everything in one
In
pot,
one pot.
right? So that you had your starch, protein, um, your legumes, your
Yeah.
peas,
Yeah.
and your vegetables all together, right? And so they learned to cook the peas separately because it's the
Mhm.
toughest. Put it aside,
But it's a
cook
right?
it,
You
and
soak it
put it,
overnight and
so
then
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
every time I eat it, it gives me gratification because it reminds me of the ingenuity
yeah.
of my ancestors.
Right.
So I eat it not just with its taste in mind, but with the gratification that it's because of them
It's
I
so
can now
interesting, right? Yeah.
enjoy this.
Yeah. Wow, that's a whole. I mean, it's like it's stuff that we at least thankfully we learned in school in Guyana. I can't speak for the rest of the Caribbean, and I know the children here not learn. Well, children in the U.S. not learning it, but
Yeah. And I
thankfully
don't know
we
how much of it is, I'm sorry to interject, but I don't know
learned.
how much of it is still taught in Guyana.
Wow.
Like, to give children a grounding and an
Yeah.
appreciation for how what they have today came to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad, but that's why it's also important for us to even have conversations like this and make it available
Hmm.
so that reminder of like our history.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's always a hard question. I think that's probably the hardest question so far in the series, choosing one dish because everybody's like, hold up, there's so many options. There's so. So
It's
this
hard.
is a little bit easier. Growing up in Guyana, we always had, and I think this is true, like regardless of what year you went, like the years you went to school, we always
Hmm.
had vendors out front. So multiple aunties and uncles selling the homemade snacks. They're like Guyanese, snacks. What was your favorite things at lunchtime or snack time?
Well, um, I have a twofold answer in that I have always liked street food. Well,
Mhm.
no, I want to say street food. I mean, as a child in school, if that's what you're asking about,
Yeah.
I used to love pickled mango or golden apple, the pickled golden apple,
Oh.
with the pepper and salt.
Hmm.
Um, I used to love gooseberry syrup, right? Or tamarind syrup, right?
Wow.
That's the second thing. Um, or I like tamarind balls. I
Hmm.
mean, I used to love the rice cakes we used to get as children, in the ball, the round
The
one.
hard one?
Yeah, the rice cake that used to be crunchy. It wasn't hard for
Yeah.
me, but it used to be
Yeah,
crunchy.
crunchy. Yeah, yeah. But it's not
Yeah,
soft.
yeah,
It's like a Rice Krispies treat here.
right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I used to love that. I mean, I I I love sugar cake, right?
I like how you went from sour to sweet.
Yeah. I
It's
love
like,
sugar cake, especially with if they put ginger in the sugar cake, there's something that it does to it.
yeah.
So those things I remember from school days. I particularly like the chip sugar cake because I like the coconut more than I like the
The
sugar, even though
sugar,
to
yeah.
make it stay together, there was quite a bit of sugar. But yeah, and so in school, those are the things I liked. But as an adult,
Hmm.
um, uh, snacks on the road, like when you go to cinema in those days, or you're just passing and you want something to eat from a vendor.
Hmm.
I used to love um, the fried shark in a puri, wrapped in the puri with
What?
salt. Fried shark, yeah. Shark. I love fried shark.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And once it is
Actually,
you
the
line
one
it up.
time I ever ate shark was in Wakenham with y'all.
Right.
With
So,
plantain.
they want you lime it up good, right? Yeah. I mean, they got some boys who would sell the shark and it would be really well done.
That's
Um, and I knew who to go to. I don't see them anymore when I visit, but I used to love the shark wrapped up in a puri with pepper, or the saltfish cake with pepper, right? I love that. Um, then I would walk along the pavement there outside GPO,
hmm.
and I used to love to get pumpkin pone, right? I used to
Oh,
love pumpkin pone. Um,
oh my gosh.
just hold.
Yeah. All right. So it's always interesting to me like when I like some of the things you think about when I think about Guyana and growing up, a huge difference is definitely the snacks because at least my experience living in the US, you have everything is packaged and nobody's definitely not selling anything on the side of the road that I would probably buy from, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, it depends on where you are in the country, but definitely not like fried, like Polari and like those things just made. Whoever's selling it made it the morning. At worst, it's a day old. At worst, but usually
Yeah,
once the food is good, they sell out. So
yeah, and even if it doesn't sell out at the end of the day, they're trying to get rid of everything because they don't want to take it home and have to serve it tomorrow, right?
exactly.
So normally, if they want it's coming to the close of the day, they would give larger portions to get rid of the stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you buy, yeah, so and therein lies the difference. I mean, it's the reason why in Guyana, sicknesses were not lifestyle diseases were not widespread
It was more like
because
an old people thing.
we always ate fresh food daily. It's made. Things were not packaged and put on a shelf, so you didn't have to deal with preservatives and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. So another thing I miss about Guyana is the holidays. I mean, I feel
well,
like America has a lot of holidays, or other countries have a lot of holidays, but for us, everything shuts down. And it's not just the day, it's like the day before. You know, you go to the bank or you definitely go to a government place. They winding down like 3 o'clock the day before holiday. Nobody really there. So, what was your favorite, most favorite holiday, Guyana holiday growing up?
Well, as a child, I particularly liked Easter.
Okay.
And the reason is the making of the kite.
Oh, you used
You
to
know,
make
you didn't,
your own
yeah,
kite?
oh yes, you didn't go and buy no kite, right? You
Excuse
didn't go and buy any
me.
kite. No, so this was the whole exercise that made it
Mm.
exciting for a child. Because in our yard, we had what was called a glamour cherry tree. Okay?
Oh.
So we used to go and pick our glamour cherries, which if you ate them, they were sweet, by the way.
Oh, really?
So
I
yeah,
know
oh
they're
yes, that's in
very,
tangy
very
taste.
sticky.
It's sweet actually. So
Okay.
you eat some glamour cherry to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would make our kite. You pick the fruit and you lather it onto the paper and you put it together, and it was a very powerful adhesive that our kites were made of natural paste. You didn't have to use Elmer's glue or anything like that. So we used to mount the glamour cherry tree, break off some of the glamour cherries, cut your kite paper. Well, you'd frame your kite, right? So you get the
Yeah.
light wood, knock your little tack in it, and then you'd put the thread around the frame. You'd make the little incision in the
I've
wood,
observed it happening. Yeah.
right?
At least.
To make your yeah, we used to do it at home, and
Wow.
um, and then you'd get you'd shred the skin of the bamboo to make the bridge, the nose of it, because the bamboo is pliant. So
Yeah.
like that, you'd make that to make the part that comes up the nose of the kite,
Right. Right.
and then you'd bend it around to make that circular thing that is used to make a homemade kite.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd cut your paper, that light paper, to put on the thing, and you stick it with the glamour cherry.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hang it, set it out to dry, and it dries, then you cut out the various shapes to make your decorations for your kite.
That was such a time,
Oh
man.
yeah, and then you'd go and you get the polythene,
Yeah.
twine to fly the kite on,
And you got to
and
make
then
the
you'd go and
tail.
find some piece of old clothing. You cut the cloth to make scrap strips to make the
And you
tail
got
for the
to tie
kite.
them together.
Yep, and then you would make the bull, what is to call the bull of the kite, which is the tongue that
The
makes
turn.
that used to make the sound when the wind passes that buzzed. So
Yeah.
you try to make your kite make the loudest buzzing sound that you could make, and then you let it up. You get your cousin to hold it, and stand a distance away, and
Mhm.
then you'd pull and then run backward to get it airborne.
Uncle
And
Paul used to cut people kite.
oh no, 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 no.
Okay.
No. Um, and once you get it up there, then you tie it to your landing, as we would call it,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
platform, the porch.
Hmm.
Um, and you leave it there to fly for
For
days unless rain
days.
wets it. You'd bring it down when it stops buzzing to make a new tongue, so you could put it back up to continue buzzing during the night. So I like that. And then we would go either on the seawall or on Farnham Playground in Sobrianville there to fly the kite. And then at Easter, sometimes, you would go on excursions out of town.
Really?
And so, like that, I liked Easter as a child, but as an adult, and I think that people would have imagined that the Guyanese would always talk about Christmas.
I miss Easter the most, to be honest.
Yeah, Easter was really exciting for me.
Yeah.
And Easter people would go, to the beach and all that kind of stuff. I never went to the beach, but sometimes I'd go to the creek or some waterway somewhere.
Okay.
But the the other thing is that I mean, in adulthood, I grew to to like Christmas. I mean, the
Okay.
reason why Christmas didn't jump out at me as a child is
Mhm.
because coming from humble beginnings,
Mm.
this idea of getting plenty toys and expensive toys was not a thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Get one toy, right? Because that's what your parents could afford. So
right.
it wasn't particularly exciting because, the toys were not anything that would give a lasting impression except two toys that I got. One was a little mouth organ, it was called, because
Oh,
it
wow.
had the one octave of keys and you could actually play a tune, right? Uh,
Okay.
and that was one I remembered, and a remote control Chevrolet sports car. And in those
Oh,
days, remote
wow.
control was with the wire. It wasn't wireless, right? So you had to run behind the car while it's going, right? Uh, so those are the only two toys I ever remembered getting. So like that, Christmas, yes, apart from the food,
Yeah.
was not a time when children, their parents splurged because there wasn't that disposable income. As an adult, I learned to like Christmas, and especially when I got around my wife's family, they made me like Christmas. Because I mean, you go to Wakenham or Wackenham, which is how you say it properly.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, Wackenham is Dutch. Wakenham
Oh,
is an English. We've anglicized the name when we say Wakenham. Wackenham is really the Dutch
interesting. Okay.
pronunciation. But when I went there was when I began to like Christmas because Wackenham was alight on
Really?
Christmas Eve night. The streets were busy, everybody and the cat and dog out on the road, putting on the Sunday best,
Wow.
and there's a big line in night, Christmas Eve night. I mean,
Even up there?
oh, Twickenham, yeah, you missed something. There's, I think that Georgetown later caught on being
Oh,
climbing night, but Twickenham, man, oh gosh, apart from the day they go to the beach, which is the 1st of August or Easter Monday, when the whole island empties, right? When they go across to the neighboring island of Hamburg.
oh,
Um, Christmas Eve is the big thing.
the big thing.
And the thing that I liked is the unity that I would see at Christmas. Because
Mm,
Wackenham is predominantly Indian,
right, yeah.
but um, Indian people are just as festive as Black people at Christmas time. And then is when they eat together, they drink together, they laugh and play and all of that. Christmas brings everybody together.
Together, yeah.
And wherever you stop, you've got to eat or you've got to take a drink.
You
So
have
whenever
to.
I'm there, I'm bursting because, oh God, I can't eat the more, I can't drink the
You
more.
can't
But
walk.
we turn up and somebody says, "Nah, man, you can't do me though. You have to eat something." So, oh God, no, but a full and um, but so there's that, and uh, it was at Wackenham that I cut my teeth playing masquerade, not in Georgetown. Right? 'Cause
What?
my wife's cousins are expert masqueraders, man. They would make the
Wow.
cow, make the costumes. And of course, I played my recorder in the masquerade band. So we'd go dancing around the whole island, right? And people looked out for us. We used to make a good bit of money,
Goodness.
which at the end of the day, used to buy stuff to cook a huge pot and buy
Yeah.
liquor, and everybody around, getting a plate of food who
Mm,
passes by, and they taking a drink. Everybody coming in on the lime. So it's a big
yeah.
bingy, as we would say in Guyana, right? It's a bingy, right? So we dance masquerade just to have fun, to make the
I
money, to have
never
some fun
thought
later.
about that. Yeah,
Right. So
wow.
oh yeah, so I like that about it. And then um it is the place and time when my wife's cousins have made me really feel like a king,
Mm,
because once I'm around, all of her cousins know what I like to eat.
yeah.
Every one of them would make something and send over just for Paul. And that's how I knew that I was really loved, because they would say, listen, use we family, not she.
Yeah. Who says this?
Yeah,
Not.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they adopted me. They treat me well. And, my wife's cousin, who now lives in Texas, is one of the reasons why I no longer enjoy Wackenham as much because at Christmas, because he has migrated.
Yeah.
But he told me, he said, cuz, and he's called me cuz, even though I'm not a blood relative. He said,
Wow.
cuz, you know what make me respect you and like you. He said, man, you come from tongue. And in spite of despite your education and that you're a professor in Trinidad, he said, you have never ever come here and given us the impression that you're above anybody.
Yeah.
So you come, you're there with your short pants, your dingy t-shirt and your rubber slipper.
Yeah.
Uh, you'd come and sit down on the ground, you
That's
know.
when we
Uh,
saw you. You were at home. That was you
oh,
couldn't tell who was
absolutely.
from waking up.
Yeah, yeah. He said you'd come and sit down on the ground. He said, and you would make us feel like you were one of us. You never ever showed us any exception, any difference. And he said you're educated, you were a Queen's College teacher, and when you come among us, you're talking broke up like Alawi. You're talking your Creolese, you broke up like Alawi.
Yeah.
And I mean, you cooking on the fireside, you bring in wood, chopping up
Hmm.
wood and all kind of thing. So, and they have a farm.
Okay.
When I'm there, I go into the farm and I fetching planting, fetching
Wow.
Edo pumpkin,
Couldn't be me.
with everybody, and they said, but we thought that this man would have been bigger T, and you
Yeah.
can't get to go in the farm and walk barefoot, and cut planting and throw fertilizer and all that kind of stuff, and all that. So he and I became close,
Wow.
and because of that, in some ways, I used to dread going home at
Cause
Christmas.
you gotta work.
No, 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 it's not the work. It's that you'd rather be my slave than my liver. Because I go home,
Oh.
and it was the first time that I ever noticed that when these chaps are buying beer,
Hmm.
Banks beer, albeit, uh,
Of course, cause
yeah, they would buy two beers at once. I'm saying these people are crazy. You buy one beer, and then when you're done, you buy the next. No, 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 no,
Chinese
no.
drinking is different.
Yeah, they buy two. So whenever they're buying a round of beer, it's two. They're handing you
Yeah.
two. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, no, no, what? And they say, no, 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 that's how we do it here.
Hmm.
So you're drinking one and one in your hand, right?
You
So you
double
got two
fisting.
beers. And, we would hop into his car. So you start at Kalush. That's the rum shop by the
Okay.
Stelling. So you start at Kalush. And you go down. So when you done have a few at Kalush, then you jump in the car and you're going down the road a little bit more.
And I
And then you're
asked
going to
you
stop.
who driving.
Exactly. Well, in the Caribbean, we drink and drive all the time, right? But you stop by Boy or by Zoo, but another shop, you take a few. Then you go down the road, you stop at another shop, you take another few. And so by the time you make 5 stops, Jesus, your bladder rebelling because you got to pee. And I'm saying, here, here, here. Listen, next round, water. Now you no, no, no. Because
Right.
by the time you're up to almost a dozen beers, and he's saying, listen, water this time. They say, all right,
All
but
right.
next shop is beer again. I said, no,
Okay.
God, I drank more beer than water, right?
Oh my God.
And the most touching part
Hmm.
is the level of consideration
Yeah.
that he has and the people around you have, because it's not just him, it's his siblings and other cousins, that when they stop and they're buying these beers, he's saying, but on a guy needs income and they're whipping out and spending and
Right.
buying
Right.
crowd.
Right. Right.
So I would reach for my wallet to make myself a man, as the old people would say, right? Because you're
Now
not
you
you're
want
not
to disrespect the people in their own place?
right, you're not loafing, you're not sponging.
Yeah.
So I go for my wallet and they say, man, cuz what you doing? I said, no, let me buy a round now.
Yeah.
No, 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 you put that back in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, no, but y'all buying all the time.
Hmm.
And I mean, Guyanese don't earn what people in Trinidad earned. I mean,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
salary was triple what I would have gotten in Guyana. I said, listen, no, no, let me buy. He said, listen, you didn't just get here.
Yeah.
You had to buy tickets,
That's the thing.
airline tickets for yourself and family. So it cost you money to get here. And
Yeah.
when you get here, you have to entertain your children because, you know, they got to be buying and all kind of thing. And then you're moving around, you're spending money. He said, listen, you have come to see us. We have to entertain you, right? And they said, listen, you came here and you never created any problems. Because, I mean, I've been around my wife's family for a quarter of a century, 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
He said, you know, you come around here, you never created any problems, you never trouble anybody. And listen, it is our honor to entertain you. And so it was a very humbling and touching experience. So I came to like Christmas because of Wakanam.
And
And
even with you sharing that is like you touch on one thing that's always common when you talk about Guyanese people is that warmth and that love and you know we always take care of each other or even if you're stranger somehow you know or even like being outside of Guyana you meet a Guyanese y'all as cousins you don't know how
everybody's auntie and
everybody's
uncle.
auntie and uncle and we take
Hmm.
care of each other and we take care of people in general.
Oh, I mean,
And
I
if you're
could tell
scared to
you.
protect them, if they're bleeding on the side of the road, you would still help.
Oh my goodness, of course. I mean, I've seen enemies, mortal enemies, bury the hatchet
Yeah,
once there is trouble.
right.
And I could tell you that Guyanese hospitality is embarrassing. By that I mean that I have been to a certain country home
Mm,
where they wouldn't even allow you to carry out your potty.
yeah,
No
yeah,
joke, you know.
yeah,
I mean, you go, they have a latrine,
yeah,
outhouse over
yeah.
here.
Latrin.
You know and I know, but I'm making sure your listeners know what a latrine is.
They gonna
But it,
learn Latrin. A
yeah,
latrine.
they say latrine. It was
Uh-huh.
latrine, right? So they got the latrine, and so during the night they'd put a potty on their bed, or we used to say a posy or a po, right? They put it on their bed, and during the night, you pee in the potty, and you tell yourself as soon as you wake up, you'll carry it out. And I wake up, 5:30,
Wow.
6 o'clock in the morning, look under the bed for the potty, and I knew I peed in it, but I see the potty clean and empty, dry and smelling good. So I go and I tell the lady, I said, listen, you don't have to carry out no potty, man. There's IP in it, I can carry it out. She said, no,
Yeah,
no, we carry it out for you.
yeah.
So, that, I mean, it was embarrassing.
It's so different. It's
Under
so
your
so
bed
different.
while you're still asleep, carry that out and put it back, clean it and put it back. You
Yeah.
know, you're going out to some function and they're asking you what you're wearing. And so I ain't decided yet. No, tell me what you're wearing
So they can
because they
iron
can
it.
iron your
Yep.
clothes for you,
It's
right?
I didn't even think though you started talking I was able to finish that. Because
Yeah, they
that's how
iron your clothes for you,
even when people
right?
say about us, that's how mommy would. Like it when at
They
least
polish your shoes, and I'm saying no.
mommy
I
would
wear the
take off
shoes.
time from work if somebody coming to stay at our house from
Mhm,
overseas or out of town. Because you
mhm.
gotta make sure breakfast, lunch, and dinner freshly made every single day. Not bought, made.
Yeah, I've had friends come to my house and say, listen, when I leave, I got to detox from food, right? I got a friend,
People like a cooking.
oh God, I got a friend who is from Africa, from Ghana,
Uh-huh.
and he's doing his doctorate now in Massachusetts, and he just celebrated his 40th birthday. And, he said, the thing I will never forget is how I was treated like a king in Guyana. And he's talking to a crowd of Africans in Massachusetts, right? He said, I was the only thing I had to do was go to the toilet for myself, but everything else was done. And he said I had to beg them, no, please, no more food.
There's no more food.
No,
Yep.
he said my stomach can't take anymore. Because he said I would get up and have breakfast, and from the time breakfast was done, these people started cooking
Cooking
lunch.
lunch. Yep.
So a few hours later, you have lunch, and then by afternoon they start
It's
dinner.
dinner.
And
And you always got
so
some small piece of fudge, something to pick on whole day.
oh yeah, and my
Yeah.
mother-in-law used to make her mitai and chicken
Oh
foot
my
and
gosh.
everything from scratch, right?
Oh,
So yeah, so I know about the manner of food in Guyana.
So,
you
Uncle,
know.
what even you talk about having interacting with non-Guyanese, with interacting with people that weren't born in Guyana or not Guyanese, do you remember the first time or something that you've done or said to them that
Mhm.
you didn't realize, oh, this is something that non-Guyanese wouldn't do or say? So my favorite example is when Gabby and I, when we first came to the U.S. and we went to the nearby gas station to buy gum, and Gabby and I looked at the guy and said, "Could we have a pack of Chico?"
Oh, well, and for Guyanese, every toothpaste is Colgate,
Colgate, yep.
right? They would say, where the Colgate?
The Crest
And
Colgate.
right, and we use Crest. I say Colgate. Oh, the toothpaste, I see.
Yeah.
Or I mean, when I landed in Antigua,
Mhm.
um, was when I realized how quaint Guyanese were. That I talking about gaffing,
Mhm.
and an Antiguan said, "What's that?" They don't know what it means to gaff, right?
Mm.
Gaffing is a Guyanese, and so I went and I checked, and I realized this is a word in the dictionary. So
Yeah.
Guyanese use it, but it's an old word.
Old word. Yeah.
Um, there are words that Guyanese use that nobody else does, and I discovered that by living in other places,
Mhm.
right? Like for instance, only Guyanese talk of progs. And again, I went to the dictionary and realized, wait, progs is a word, right? Progs is a word.
Even
Uh,
though we said, "Hey, you got progs, man. They dressed
yeah,
up
progs is a
today."
word. And I said, wait a minute. The other thing that I know that is uniquely Guyanese is the treatment of Nara. No, it's only Guyanese,
It works though.
but it does. That's what I'm saying. That's the reason I'm mentioning it, because when I was in Trinidad, I had a Barbadian student at the university who lived by us for a short time. So she
Okay.
became like family.
Mhm.
And one day she was sick like a dog, you stomach upset, can't eat anything, but and she was in bed all day. And I would drop by to carry something for her from
Yeah.
Malacca
Uh-huh.
and realized that she can't even lift her head. And I asked her what happened. She told me. I said, "You think you got Nara?" She said, "What is that?" I said, "I can't explain it, but what happens is that when
Your
they measure
intestines out to line.
your navel, it's out the line, and that
Yeah.
usually makes you very sick." And she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, "Listen, I let Malika come and deal with you because, of course, she's a woman. I can't do
Right,
that."
right, right, right.
So, went and called Malika. Malika went in. Malika said, "Yep, she got it
Uh,
bad." And Malika went to work on her, and she was shocked
It
that when
works.
Malika was done, she felt good without any medication. She just needed to eat and drink something. And then she was up and about functioning and was sick like a dog not so long ago, right? And I realized this
Nara
was,
is real.
yeah,
I
now is a
mean, we're
real
not
thing.
giving any medical advice, but we know that it works. Because, like, even the remedy in the US is surgery. So, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
when family 90 out, it's really
Mm-hmm.
outside surgery to do it. It
Yeah,
works.
right. And I mean, and I mean the various ways of treating Nara also, because some people don't mind it at all.
Oh,
I know
really?
some people use the candle and the glass,
Oh, right. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then there are, from being in Wakanam is when I discovered that there are other ways. There are four different ways to do it. There's the anointing. There's the candle with the glass.
Hmm.
Um, and then Malika, for instance, she um, treats it by basically punching you under the sole of your foot, right? Yes, I never knew that that was a way. Punching you under the sole of your foot and then making you do 7 sit-ups. And then when you get up, you shake out your arms and your legs.
Yeah.
And when she measures, perfectly back in
Perfect.
order. And then there's yet another way, there's a fourth way, but I saw her aunt and her father do, and stretch your limbs actually.
Okay.
Put it, at the crook of your knee behind your leg, and then stretch that leg with the bottle behind it, and all that. And yeah, it's a little painful, but the point is when they're done, you're good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are different ways to treat Nara, which is something that is
I know
unique to.
most. I knew two: the anointing and
Mhm.
the candlestick and
Yeah.
the fast.
Yeah, but there are
Wow.
two others. Yeah, I did that I didn't know about till I went to the countryside and realized, these people do
Country life
that
is.
too. Yeah, yeah.
We could definitely talk, definitely go on and on. But
Oh,
if you had
absolutely.
to there's so much to talk about Guyana. So, so much.
Well, we could do this again sometime.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. But if you had to, kind of summarize, what does it mean to you to be Guyanese?
To be Guyanese is to be ambitious,
Mm,
to be competent, and passionate. Because Guyanese are ambitious and hardworking.
mm,
I mean, I've lived in 4 countries of the world, and every time I meet a Guyanese, people are high in their praise at how Guyanese are, once they get out of Guyana, that is,
yeah,
are very progressive.
yeah,
They always trying to climb higher, and in order to do it, they work hard. So they are ambitious. They got ambition. They're always trying for better.
right.
They are competent in that Guyanese are some of the best people at whatever they do.
We do.
And even if they didn't know it before, they apply themselves to the task at
Unfortunately,
hand
yeah,
and develop the competence and then make themselves so good at what they do that people would be shocked that didn't always weren't always
that's good.
they didn't always possess that skill,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, I could tell you stories about that from my own personal experience.
Hmm.
That I went and worked in construction before I actually got my government appointment in Antigua,
Wow.
and the guys would swear that I was an ordinary laborer. They didn't know I had a master's degree
Yeah.
until at the end of the week when the guy asked my name to put on the pay envelope, right? Because a friend just tagged me along to go do work.
Yeah.
And man, I was mixing cement, mixing mortar, and fetching cement and blocks and all that in a way that made them think that I was a seasoned laborer. I
Yeah.
was running up a narrow strip of wood up a ramp when we were casting the floor of a house
Oh
with
my
a
God.
laden wheelbarrow. You start running from the bottom, building momentum and going up this narrow wood with a full tray wheelbarrow, and then you toss it onto the floor because you're casting. And they could swear that I actually knew what I was doing, and I didn't.
Wow.
And at the end of the week, when the guy said, "What's your name?" because they got submitted to
Mm,
the contractor to get your little pay,
yeah.
and I said, "Paul Cort," and he said, "You are one of them cart." That's how they say it, Caught. You are one of them cart. So I said, "Yes, I'm a cart." Well, there are some carts in Antigua who are very well to do. I'm related to them, but they are not born in Guyana. Their grandfather was Guyanese. And I said,
Oh,
"Yes, I'm a cart." He said, "But what are you doing here?" So I
yeah.
said, "How you mean?" "I'm here to work and earn. I have a wife. I
Hmm.
have to take care of." And he said, "But all them Carter educated people." So I said, "Yes." And he said, "I sure you educated too." He said, "You ain't been to university." I said, "Yes, I have a master's." So he said, "What are you doing here?" Right,
Yeah.
doing construction. I
Yeah.
said, "There is honor in labor."
Yeah.
He said, "No job is too low.
Yeah.
And thieving. I'm not stealing, I'm earning." Right. So, talk about Guyanese being, developing competence in the shortest possible time,
Right.
and being passionate in that Guyanese have a fire burning inside them that gives them a determination, an indomitable will to succeed, that makes them unstoppable. right? Because of the level of passion that they have, which drives them to accomplish. So that's why I use those three words to
That
surmise
was
what it means.
perfect. Because regardless, and like you said, regardless of where we are in the world, that's something that's ingrained. That's like at our foundation, at our core. We talk, we talk about being Guyanese to the marrow or to the bone, but that's the hospitality, the love, the unity, regardless of everything else. But that hard work and that endurance and passion for not even for perfection, but to continue to get better in everything that we do.
Yeah, it's something that is in the DNA of Guyanese,
Yeah.
and I never realized it until I left Guyana.
Yeah.
Like I encountered it in Antigua and Trinidad when I lived there. Um, I remember in Antigua, the coordinator of music
Hmm.
in Antigua came to me one day and she said, I still wonder how it is that Guyanese composers were writing music on the level of any European composer when nowhere else in the
Yeah.
Caribbean were
Yeah.
people writing music at that level. And I want to know what it is that make Guyanese do that. And I had to tell her, I said, listen, whether or not they said their prayers could be in doubt. I said, but if you lived next to a Guyanese musician of long ago, the first thing you hear going in the morning, even before they left for school, was that piano.
Yep.
And the last thing before they go to bed in the night is that piano or violin or
I
whatever they
know that's
play.
how mommy was.
Right. So I said the level of devotion to what they did, the commitment, the industry, the hard work is something, and Guyanese always strove for excellence.
Yeah.
Right. I remember my late great teacher Edith Peters saying, aim at excellence. If you do not reach it, you wouldn't fall too far short
Far.
of it.
That's true.
Right. So, that's something that was drummed into you from the time you were little. And then when I went to Trinidad to live, is when um, through my cousin Chloe Paul, she's almost 80 years old now, and she's a fireball. She's an old lady, and she is more hip than I am
Oh my
in
God.
that she is a Facebooker. And she always with her tablet, and she knows how to crop and thing, and
Mhm.
I mean, she's with it. I am so far behind her, and she's almost 80. And when I went by her was when I met Guyanese firebrands,
Wow.
right? From the first BWIA pilots who were non-white, some
Wow.
of them still alive, living, um, might be dead by now, but living in Trinidad. And
Mhm.
she could point out and tell you the history of how Guyanese assisted Trinidadians. Um, And then, you meet the person who set up the blood bank in Trinidad and Tobago, a Guyanese.
Wow.
You meet principals of the university, former principals, Guyanese. I have met the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. I taught his son, tutored him privately at home. And when he learned that I was Guyanese, he nearly went bananas. Said, boy, Guyanese made me when I was at university. He said, come in my car now. He put me in his car and
So
drove
we
me
could
to.
definitely definitely go
Uh,
on, but
yeah. And
so
then,
yeah.
yeah, just let me say this and then be
Yeah.
finished. And then,
Yeah.
um, you look at, and this is the one I wanted to get to.
Mhm.
One lady I met one Sunday at church,
Mhm.
she said, I want you to answer something for me. She's dead now. Well,
Mhm.
two of them. One who told me how much Trinidad depended on Guyana to
Mhm.
assist them with their music in the earlies, right?
Yeah.
She's a lady in her 80s. She just died recently. And then, I mean, she was almost 90. But this other lady said, I want you to answer something for me. And I said, what's that? She said, tell me how them Guyanese so bright. And this was a very prominent lawyer in Trinidad. So I
Wow.
said, what do you mean? She said, listen, I don't know what it is, but all of you so
Yes,
bright.
we go
She said, I
hard.
went to school with Guyanese. She said, I was taught by Guyanese. And
Mm.
I could tell you that all you're bright. And I was so embarrassed because, I mean, I, again, until you leave Guyana, you
You
never
don't
realize how
appreciate.
Guyanese
Yeah,
are viewed, in other
right.
places. So I'll stop there.
Well, we definitely could go on, but Uncle Paul, thank you so so much for hanging out with me, and this was definitely a educational and definitely informative conversation. And our conversations will go on forever, but at least
Uh,
we share a little bit of it with the world. Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you so so much.
Thank you.
All right.